Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Faster Way podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Tress, founder and CEO of The Faster Way, and I am thrilled to be here today with my new friend, Dr. Michael Turner. Dr. Turner, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. Really glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
We were connected through my friend, Dr. Isaac Jones, who is one of my favorite people. He has the most incredible energy, and we are so aligned on values. And so any of his friends are immediately my friends.
Mm.
But you are all the way out on the West Coast. You said Washington State.
Yeah, I'm in Washington State. I have a
Ooh.
national practice that's based online, but I live out here in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, so what's your weather right now? Is it like snowy and cold?
Yeah, little monochrome sky, trees without leaves,
Yep.
down into the 20s and 30s at night, that kind of thing.
Ooh, no way, man. Winter is a choice. I actually woke up to 45-degree weather in Tampa, Florida, and I told my husband, if it goes anything below 45, I will be on a plane to Costa Rica where we have a second house. I'm like, don't
Right.
even tempt me. I'm like, I will be at that airport so fast. Anyway, okay, let's talk a little bit about when and why you entered into the wellness space. When and why did you become a doctor?
Yeah, it's an outgrowth of who I am as a person. I just didn't quite realize it. It's sort of a progressive story, right? But I was raised by a mom with some really healthy habits. She had actually been a hippie in California back in the 70s. She had worked at a natural food store. So when I grew up, there was no sugar in the house, no processed cereal, minimal screen time. She read books to me all the time. We did Boy Scouts and sports, and I played outside with kids and things like that. So I had a fairly healthy, thankfully, childhood and experience and example for myself. And then around eighth or ninth grade, I got gifted a workout bench, an old Joe Weider workout bench with like the plastic preformed weights.
Oh my gosh.
That was my grandpa's. I inherited that thing. So now I'm in the garage and I'm doing workouts every night and I'm trying to get some biceps and some chest and, just asking myself questions like, how much should I work out? How much is too much, right? How much protein should I have? What's the optimal set rep scheme to gain strength and look good, etc. So I'm reading bodybuilding magazines and stuff. This is before the internet and just trying to figure some things out. Fast forward, we add a layer to that in high school where I take a health class. And the health class, one of the pivotal moments was they had us write down everything that we ate in a day. Okay. Everything we eat that went in the mouth with ingredients, like you had to read the labels, write all that stuff down, right? Grams of saturated fat, grams of sugar, and all that. So that was very eye opening because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm drinking like 3 cartons of chocolate milk every day. You know, I'm thinking this is a healthy snack. I'm at high school and it was like little sugar bombs. They're each packing like 16 grams of sugar, right? I'm having a candy bar, and that's like ridiculous amount of saturated fat and it's got 25 ingredients I don't even know how to pronounce, right? So that was very eye opening. And then it just kind of kept building. I just decided that I loved to be as healthy as possible. I liked how I felt. I liked how I looked. I just kind of fell in love with the idea of what's under the hood, like how deep can I take this and how far can I go in my understanding and my personal application of it?
Yeah. Okay. First and foremost, shout out to your mom. Shout out to all the moms because that
Yep.
was such an important component of your story growing up. And that's the thing, like us moms, us dads, us parents, like we are impacting our kids in such a huge way for better or for worse. I know, my family growing up, very loving family, but we
Hmm.
did the fast food thing all
Hmm.
the time. And my two sisters were and still are morbidly obese. I was on blood pressure medication at 17. And it's not because my parents didn't love me, it's because they didn't know what to do. So I think it's
Mm.
really cool that your mom was working at the health food store and that's fantastic, a little Californian hippie. But you did tell me that you were a teacher before you became a doctor. So share with me a little bit about that journey from education into now what you do as a concierge doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, during undergrad, I was at Stanford University. I was pre-med. I was working very hard. It was quite challenging. You can imagine large class sizes and aggressive students and competitive, et cetera, et cetera. So I was working very hard and I had lined up all my pre-med requirements, letters, tests, et cetera. And I had done well by the grace of God, but I was also a little burnt out.
Hmm.
I mean, I was studying hard. So I'm like, gosh, I don't think I'm ready to just continue at this pace in med school. I need a little time off. I'll get there, but I need some time off first. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And I had done a lot of tutoring and had also worked with children as a summer camp counselor in college. So I hit on teaching. It turned out I was took 3 years off. I didn't know it was open ended, but I turned out to be 3 year time off in which I taught a variety of situations. I taught full time fifth grade classroom. I taught seventh and eighth grade science. I worked as a substitute teacher, all of that. And then as I was wrapping up, I kind of just had this internal feeling like, okay, I could go back to med school now. I could be back in the grind. All right, that's fine. I'll apply to med school. So I applied. I remember going off to my interview at Harvard Medical School. I put on the one suit and tie that I owned, went there, got accepted,
Wow.
and so I went from like seventh and eighth grade science
Oh
teacher
my
one year.
gosh.
Next year, I'm at Harvard Medical School enrolling class, so that was really special. And I've just tried to keep that focus. I try to have a strong emphasis on education, and I'm trying to impart. The way I think about it is, if my patient understood this situation as well as I do, right, then they would be as empowered and as motivated to take action and sustain action as I am for them. So I'm trying to
Mm.
have a download of information so they can be empowered and motivated and self-sustaining on their health habits.
Yeah, okay, you lost me at teaching 5th grade. So I have a 5th grade son. I have 5 kids total. So I've got a 7th grade daughter, 5th grade son, 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 2-year-old. 5th grade is tough. I don't know how you
Mm,
went from middle school, so 5th, 7th, and 8th, and then we're like, "You know what? I would probably do the same thing. I can't teach. This is way too hard. I'm gonna go to Harvard Medical School instead." Like,
mm,
actually,
mm.
that makes sense. That's like a trajectory. Okay, so you're clearly a smarty pants. Plus, you dressed to impress today with your tie on, so I love that. Talk to me a little bit about your lifestyle recommendations. I did hear a rumor that you are a proponent or a fan of intermittent fasting. So share with me a little bit about how you were exposed to intermittent fasting, how you implement it, and then maybe what you recommend for your patients as well.
Oh, sure. So I first heard about intermittent fasting maybe 10 or 12 years ago. I was intrigued. There was a guy online who was a medical student out of Sweden. I don't know if you heard about this guy. His name's escaping me at the moment. But anyway, he was blogging about intermittent fasting and training in a fasted state and making all these gains.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I piqued my interest. And then understanding what I did about biochemistry and nutrition, it made some sense. And so the way I explain it to patients is, look, you're when you're eating, your body's assimilating that energy, and you're obviously in energy consumption and energy storage mode, right? When you stop eating, you go into energy burning mode. Now, especially what I love is the fact that when you wake up in the morning, your body is already in fat burning mode, right? Because the dinner you ate got digested, got assimilated, and somewhere in the middle of the night, your body switched to fat burn. It was done with dinner and now it's in fat burn. So when you get up first thing in the morning, voila, your body's already in fat burn state. The minute you put something in your mouth, that stops.
Mhm.
Why do that if you're trying to lose weight? Instead, accentuate that. Be synergistic with that. Your body's already in fat burn. Don't put something in your mouth right away. Run with it. Go do some cardio. Get your HIIT done. Get your heart rate up, right? Like, get that morning workout in there, and then just forestall putting food in your mouth for as long as possible. You're going to stay in fat burn for as long as possible. It's the basic idea of it. And then there's so many other good things that happen too. Your insulin gets balanced out, your blood sugar gets balanced out, inflammation levels go down, cellular renewal, which we call autophagy, goes up. A bunch of good things. But in a nutshell, I'm a big proponent of basically an 8-hour eating window, aka 16-hour fast, kind of like every day. I mean, take a break here and there for special occasions, but in terms of a routine, that's a good routine.
Oh my goodness. You are speaking my language. Yes, we are on the same page 100%. In our Faster Way community, we do typically the 16-8, 7 days a week. Some clients come in and have pre-existing conditions, so they'll start with a 12-12 or even a 14-10. Occasionally, we'll add in a 24-hour fast as well. Just this week, there was an article on Apple News about how researchers have discovered that the only benefit of intermittent fasting is weight loss and there's no other real benefits and blah 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 blah. Obviously I don't really listen to Apple News, but I'm like, oh
Mhm.
man, I just cannot with these like clickbait articles. And one of
Mm.
my team members sent it to me. I'm like, do not even get me started about insulin sensitivity. Do not even get me started about autophagy. Do not even get me started about any of the other benefits that we know are
Yes.
very like, just the gut health benefits alone of
Mm.
resolving a lot of gut issues. I have clients come in and say, "Oh my gosh, I was bloated for what felt like decades, and now I'm
Mm,
no longer bloated. My energy's through the roof. My immune system is stronger. I'm finally burning fat around my midsection."
yes.
It's just, I mean, the benefits are outstanding, and you don't know until you try. And
Yeah.
bioindividuality is a thing. And sometimes I have clients who say, for me, 16 hours feels like I'm pushing it a little bit, while others can do, maybe some of my male clients, 20-hour fasts every day and feel
Mhm,
great. But I
mhm,
think a key from my perspective is eating enough of the right foods during your feeding window, getting those macronutrients and micronutrients versus just, and I want to talk with you about this because there's so much
mhm,
confusion, just so much confusion about kind of that difference between weight loss and fat loss.
mm,
So I believe that we should focus on fat loss and actually gaining muscle. And you can only gain muscle if you're eating enough of the right macros, specifically protein,
yes,
where most doctors and experts on Instagram or around the country say, oh, you just need to eat less and exercise more in order to see results. And that just
mhm,
is not the case. Like there's so much more
mhm,
to it. So I want to hear your perspective on that because you are a doctor, you look like a pretty fit guy. What
yeah.
is your perspective on what you should consume during that feeding window?
Absolutely. Well, just to reiterate your point about weight loss versus fat loss, you want to preserve muscle mass, supremely important. Muscle burns more calories at rest than any other tissue. First of all, obviously it's functional in your life. It moves your three-dimensional frame. And if you go on crash diets, you tend to start having a large proportion of lean muscle mass lost. And that's very hard to regain, especially as you get older. It's not like, oh, I lost 5 pounds of muscle. Let me just get 5 pounds of muscle back. It's not that easy, right? So you want to be very particular about not losing muscle in the midst of your workout and such. And this is typically the problem with, let's say, like the biggest loser competitions, right? Something like this, where
Yes.
someone's like over dramatic, they lose 80 pounds, but 25 of it's muscle. They end up weaker. Their whole metabolism goes down. Their body thinks they're starving. And then when they go back to trying to eat like a regular human being, all that weight comes right back, right? So the answer to this partly is strength training, but to your point, it's really understanding your macros. And I'll just focus in on protein and I'll just give numbers. I remember last time I did the research was a couple years back. I looked into this thoroughly. I'm like, how many grams of protein, if I'm strength training, do I need to consume that day in order to maximize gains? Too little, and I'm not getting the gains that I should. Too much, it's just being broken down, excreted by my kidneys into my urine. So, what is the right amount? And it turns out that when you look deep into this research, when they've done studies in the hospital where they've, put mass on patients and measured exhaled nitrogen levels and like collected their stool samples, I mean, to the nth degree to figure out their nitrogen balance and their turnover, on a day of heavy strength training, you should be at 1.8 grams per kilogram body weight in a day, all the way up to maybe 2.2. That's your sweet spot. And that's kind of a lot. That's kind of a lot. And so many of my patients like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, well, try it. And all of a sudden they're like, my recovery is a lot better. I'm making some gains. I'm like, yeah, you just weren't eating enough protein. Now to get to that point, it's going to take some intentionality, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just going to eat a little cottage cheese here and there and, a glass of milk. You're not going to get to that level. And just to put some math on it for people, if you are 200 pounds, well, let's say 200 pounds, you divide that by 2.2 in terms to get kilos. So maybe you're 96 kilos, something like that, 93, something like that. You do that math times 1.8, or let's just call it times two. So now you're talking about 180, 170 grams of protein, something like that in a day. So the other thing that I tell people is very important is the window of time to consume that protein is supremely important. And I tell them that there are two key periods of time. One is within half an hour of that workout ending, right? I'm sure you know this for sure as a trainer. Hopefully most of all your community knows this. But the pros, they're starting to recover like within a half an hour of that workout ending. They're drinking a protein shake or some kind of recovery fuel mix on the way to the car in the parking lot because your body's primed to recover and suck up nutrition and start to rebuild within that first half an hour window after your workout. So that's vital. To our second question of how much can we consume at any one time? Again, too little, not enough, too much, wasted, right? So the maximum amount you can consume at any one time from without having to digest it, like in one burst, is about 30 to 40 grams. So I tell patients you need 30 to 40 grams within 30 minutes of that workout. And the final key window of time for that protein is right before bed. This is something that a lot of people don't realize and they're not doing. And I'm like, yeah, I want you to have 30 grams of protein right before bed. I want you getting your BCAAs or your whey protein and doing this in some milk and like taking your, bedtime melatonin or whatever it is and go to sleep. Well, why is that won't I get fat? No, you won't. Here's what's going to happen. Protein is a stimulus for growth hormone release. It's a stimulus for growth hormone release. I could hand you a protein shake right now, and I could watch your growth hormone levels surge over the next 1 to 2 hours, just sitting here in the middle of the day doing nothing at your desk. Okay, protein all by itself signals growth hormone release. And growth hormone is going to get released anyway during your sleep. That's its predominant time, but especially at the beginning of your sleep, which is where you're in the deepest stage of sleep, which is called stage 4. That's growth hormone release. So basically 80% of your growth hormone release, let's say during a day, is within the first 2-3 hours of your sleep at night. So when you put in 30 grams of protein, you're now potentiating and accelerating that growth hormone release that was going to happen anyway. Growth hormone is your best friend because it sheds fat, builds muscle, repairs tendon and ligaments, parenthesis, it's also great for the brain. So people, as soon as I can convince them to have 30 grams of protein, they're like, oh my gosh, my recovery is shooting up. I'm not so sore that next morning. I'm making gains. I'm like, yep. Are you getting fat? No, not at all. Exactly. It's phenomenal. So that's
Oh my gosh. Okay, here's the main takeaway for my ladies and gents listening, because we do the 16-8. A lot of times I will stop my feeding window around 7. Sometimes I'll creep it up to 8 o'clock. I'm not necessarily going to feel great if I have a protein shake right before bed. However, what I want you guys to consider trying in December, this podcast is going to drop in December, and as we look into 2025, is using that peppermint mocha protein that we just launched in fastawayshop.com, putting a little bit of almond milk in it. Maybe you warm it up in the microwave. It's going to taste incredible. It's going to taste like chocolate milk. So the peppermint mocha protein, it's 30 grams per scoop, very bioavailable because it's the grass-fed Hydra beef protein. I'm going to probably pop another scoop of my creatine in there. We do have BCAAs, but our creatine right now is flavorless. That, you guys, is going to be an awesome way to hit those protein macro minimums. And I absolutely agree with you. For everyone listening, Lee Bergen, she has protein right before bed, just like you're saying, Dr. Turner. Lee Bergen is a 51-year-old trainer who is on our floor for workouts a few days a week, and she is #goals. I mean, this woman, the amount of muscle that she gets, but it's because she eats the protein. She has, let's call it 175 grams of protein a day. She didn't get like that, you guys, by just bebopping through life without paying attention to her macros. Like this lady, she will bring anchovies and tuna and who knows what to the office just to hit those protein macro minimums. So I want everyone to consider this. Let's try having 30 grams of protein, peppermint mocha protein, or chocolate protein, put a scoop of creatine in there just for extra fun. Mix it with some almond milk, warm it up, have a little bit of hot chocolate protein, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I totally agree with you. And let's talk about human growth hormone a little bit more, because
Sure.
we don't talk enough about this at the Faster Way, and people don't understand how absolutely key human growth hormone is to everyday life and health and longevity. Talk about what this is, when it starts declining, why we need it, and the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. So human growth hormone, as its name would imply, has a role when you are growing as a child, right? It's adding bone mass, it's helping you grow in height and helping your frame build out. What's interesting though is as an adult, some people think, well, I'm done growing. Why would I care about growth hormone levels? And I'll call it, let's just rename it. For adults, we're going to name it human repair hormone. How about that? Because that's what it is as well. I mentioned some of the benefits, but first of all, it strengthens connective tissue in your body, ligaments, fascia, tendons, collagen. It promotes collagen deposition and strengthening of all of that connective tissue. And this is important to understand. If you're doing heavy exercise, you're straining not just your muscles, but your connective tissue. Your connective tissue also has to remodel, right? It's not enough for my bicep muscle to get strong. I have to have the connection point of my bicep muscle to my shoulder, which is my bicep tendon, also get strong, or I will pop a bicep tendon off. Right. So if I'm doing some heavy training, I need all my connective tissue to strengthen. Growth hormone does that. Number two, it's basically the most powerful fat burning substance that we know about. The most powerful natural thing. If I could inject something in your body that's natural, that burns fat, growth hormones just at the top of the list of that, which is phenomenal. Number three, it actually directly stimulates muscle synthesis, right? Again, if I inject growth hormone in you, you would start to add on lean muscle mass. Now, the beauty of this is you don't have to find injectable growth hormone. You can stimulate growth hormone release naturally. The most key concept is to get high quality sleep every night. As I was saying, your brain will secrete growth hormone, but it's a little sensitive. It's a little touchy, right? Conditions have to be just right for your brain to put out a bunch of growth hormones, like a touchy little cat or something, you know? So the growth hormone only gets released in your deepest stages of sleep, which traditionally we've called that stage 4 sleep. This is not dreaming. Dreaming is REM. This is one step beyond that. This is you're unconscious. You're like a corpse. You're not moving. You're not dreaming. You're knocked out. That's deep sleep. And that's where growth hormone really starts to get released. So you have to pay attention to your sleep. And growth hormone, you hit those deepest stages early on. It's not like it oscillates into deep sleep the same throughout the night. It doesn't. It oscillates into deep sleep predominantly at the beginning of the night. And then it sort of lessens and tapers off to when you're actually awake. So within the first 2-3 hours of your sleep, that's basically most of your day's growth hormone release. But the other thing that's interesting is exercise will stimulate growth hormone release. Exercise all by itself, particularly high intensity, like sprinting, stuff where you're out of breath, right? This is fascinating. I remember the first time I learned about this, there was a study done. They had someone just do a 30-second all-out sprint, like even running in place. Imagine sprinting in place, as hard as you can for 30 seconds. And then they measured the growth hormone. That one 30-second sprint caused a surge in growth hormone that lasted about 2 hours. Okay, that's pretty phenomenal. So on your hit days, ladies, you can imagine all the good that you're doing for some growth hormone. And then you can accentuate that by taking some protein, which itself is a growth hormone signal, and then getting good sleep that night. Then you're really rolling. Oh, and last thing, growth hormone is very good for the brain. If you want to do some reading about this, it's pretty phenomenal. But growth hormone actually strengthens the connections between nerves, stimulates new nerve growth in areas of your brain related to memory. It's just, you can think of it like dementia prevention. So
Mm.
it's human repair hormone for us, really.
Wow. Human growth hormone. So
Yeah.
key. What are your thoughts on peptides that increase human growth hormone? Like, for example, a tesamorelin. It's interesting to me that everybody is grabbing the Ozempic and the semaglutide when you can have something that's kind of more bang for your buck with a human growth hormone. Do you have opinions about that?
Yeah, those can be helpful. I don't regularly delve into that in my practice because they're a little hard to get hold of. It's hard to find a reliable supply. It's sort of a gray market concept, as you're aware of. But
Mhm.
the idea is very valid. There are things that can help stimulate and augment growth hormone release as peptides. There's an oral peptide called MK677 that I'm kind of a fan of as well. So that is certainly a valid concept. I would do that way before I would get on like a GLP-1, for
Oh
example.
my gosh,
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, this past year, 2023, 2024, Ozempic is everywhere. Everyone's, taking the
Mm,
semaglutide. Now the government wants to fully cover the cost of that. But there are other options out there and there aren't the side effects. And it's more natural and you still get the benefits, but you have an appetite. You're able to build muscle. My main goal for my clients in 2025 is to increase muscle mass. If
mm,
we increase muscle, then so
mhm,
many other things are taken care of. So, ladies, gents, if you're listening, I want you to get stronger in 2025. I want you to
mhm,
chase those muscle gains. It's so much more about longevity and
mm,
functional fitness versus worrying about the weight loss or the number on the scale. And the focus of something like a semaglutide is simply to lose weight. But in the meantime, most people also lose muscle, which is just, like you said, really hard to gain back. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about supplements since we already kind of like broached the subject. You personally, what supplements do you take? What are you a huge fan of? What do you recommend?
Yes, I'm sort of a geek and an overachiever as regards supplements. So,
Love it.
Amanda, if you look at my cupboard, there's 2 shelves that are packed with supplements. There are probably 20 bottles in there, and my job every day is to move all the bottles from the left to the right. That's my goal. And
So
so every
funny.
time I'm next to the fridge, I've opened the cupboard, I'm like, what supplement am I about to take right now? And my goal is just to move all those bottles from left to right. I don't expect everybody to do that, but I would say if I had to pick like my top 3 to 5 for people, fish oil is probably right at the top of my list. Fish oil is amazing. It's great for the brain. Number one,
Mm,
it's good for your cholesterol levels. It'll lower triglycerides. It reduces inflammation and everything that's involved in inflammation, which is cardiovascular risk, which is Alzheimer's, which is cancer. And by the way, fish oil, if you just type in fish oil or omega-3 fatty acids and cancer, it's phenomenal. It has a strong anti-cancer benefit. And of course, because going back to inflammation, it reduces inflammation. You'll also notice improved workout recovery. I've had women with, arthritis in their hands, rheumatoid, autoimmune type problems with arthritis. You get them on 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams of fish oil. Their hands feel great, phenomenal. So, yeah, that's right at the top of the list. I would say number 2 is vitamin D, keeping your vitamin D level up with the supplement. Most people aren't able to get enough sun consistently to get that vitamin D level up. It's so inexpensive, it's so safe, it's so efficacious. Vitamin D should actually be called hormone D. By the way, it's not really a vitamin, it's actually a hormone. Okay. It got misnamed back when we discovered it. It's a hormone. It's just as important as thyroid or any other hormone in your body. And you should get your levels checked and you should keep them up. You should have a minimum like 60 to 100 is the sweet spot for vitamin D. Most people need a little bit of supplementation to get them there.
yeah.
So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of creatine. You mentioned that. Creatine's phenomenal on the athletic side. We've known about this. I remember when I was at Stanford in the late 90s, I had a buddy who was on the volleyball team. This guy was like 6'11", super California volleyball star guy. And creatine had just come out and they were giving this to all the Stanford sports guys. He's like, yeah, I'm mixing this stuff up. It's like my secret sauce, in some orange juice twice a day. And in any case, we've gone now all these years of research about creatine, and it's phenomenal. As you know, I'm glad that you're recommending it to your clients. It stimulates energy production, so your workout volume intensity will go up, but it also directly helps put on muscle. This is interesting. It is what we call a myostatin inhibitor, by the way. And myostatin is a molecule that is an anti-muscle growth concept. The higher your myostatin is, the more your muscle growth is inhibited. So anything that inhibits myostatin sort of takes the threshold off of muscle growth. Creatine's a potent myostatin inhibitor. It's interesting. And it's also very, very good for the brain. Extremely good. If you just type in creatine in the brain, you'll find all kinds of information. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So right at the top, I would say the fish oil, the vitamin D, the creatine. If we wanted to pick 3, those are key for everybody.
Okay, same page. I personally take NAC.
Mm,
NAC, I'm not sure what you call that, but that
yeah.
has been awesome for me. I have allergies, so I really love that. I take magnesium almost
Mm,
nightly. I think that's important, but for me, it's very vital to test and not just simply guess. You want to
yeah.
have some blood work done. I'm going to actually this week or next week get my blood work done again, because I'll tend to like have some numbers are just phenomenal. And then other things, like you said, vitamin D. For me, if I'm not at least at 70, then I'm going to be supplementing. I want to be
Mm.
even kind of north of 70. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. Okay, last question. And this is going to feel like it's just out of nowhere, but I heard that you run a cash only practice. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love the business freedom that I have, and most importantly, the patient care freedom that I have through my cash-based practice. Because here's the deal, folks. If you have insurance functioning as an intermediary, you're thinking, here's what we hope as consumers, right? We hope that, okay, we pay our insurance premiums and then we go find some medical care. We talk to the doctor and we set up the best medical care possible. And then the insurance company just pays for it. That's what we're hoping and thinking. That's not what's happening. Okay. They are rationing you and they are restricting you. And when you pay them, you give control of your medical care over. You just don't realize it. Well, wait a second. I thought I went and had a talk with the doctor. I didn't see anybody from the insurance company there. Right. Because it's all in the background. Because the insurance company is paying the doctor and you work for whoever pays you. I mean, you work for whoever pays you. If the insurance company is paying your doctor de facto works for the insurance company. And the insurance company will dictate exactly what he or she can and can't do under certain circumstances. They'll kill him or her with paperwork and documentation and all this stuff. And I knew this as I was working within the insurance model when I had a hospital job right out of medical school. I knew, all right, I could, for example, simple example, let's say would be like LASIK surgery for your eyes versus glasses. Okay. I knew if saw you had an eye problem and I'm like, you should get LASIK surgery, but insurance won't cover it. Why am I going to have this discussion about this amazing thing that your insurance won't pay for? It's going to leave you feeling a little bereft and upset. It's like a no-go. So instead, I'm going to talk about the thing that I know your insurance will cover, which is ease of access for you. So I was like, let's talk about getting you some glasses, right? Now that's a metaphor and a parable, but there are innumerable situations like that. So you need to realize as a client, when you go see the doctor, if there's insurance involved, you by definition are not getting all the best options. You're getting the ones the insurance will cover because no doctor wants to deal with insurance denials and paperwork and all that stuff that kicks back. Yes. So on my side, yeah, I wanted to have the freedom to bring the best patient care option to my clients, to have an honest discussion about it, not have to worry about anyone's paperwork, anyone's oversight. Like, you come pay me and I will tell you the best information. I'm going to tell you things no one else has ever told you. It's going to blow your mind. It's also going to transform your health. And I love it.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a couple of minutes. Stick with me, everyone listening. So I used to work for an insurance broker. I did small group insurance for companies just like the faster way. I'd go into a 50-person company, 100-person company, and I'd hook them up with any number of options: Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, blah, 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 healthcare, vision, dental. And then we were the middleman. So we were the ones getting the phone calls when such and so Susie went into the hospital to have a baby and then was seen by an out-of-network provider and now she's stuck with the bill, or such and so got in a car accident. The partners at the insurance broker where I worked told me about something called a health share. So over a decade ago, I invested in a health share instead of traditional health insurance, and I have never looked back. Just yesterday, I did a lunch and learn for my employees. Legally, I have to offer traditional insurance as an employer. However, I reimburse for a health share because it's pure health insurance. There's no in-network, out-of-network. There's no wondering, is this going to be covered or not? Because you go into a doctor's office or a hospital and you actually say you're self-pay. And the cool thing is when you say you're self-pay, the hospital will say, okay, great, here's a 40 to 60% discount, because they just want some cash. Cash is king. They just want to be sure they get something. So I go in and have a baby to the hospital. I tell them I'm self-pay. They say, okay, here's the deal. We're going to give you a huge discount, and you don't have to go through all the protocols that everybody else has to go through. We're not going to come in and do this testing or this procedure or this treatment just because it's protocol. We're not going to make you stay for 3 days just because it's protocol. We're going to give you more ownership because they just want to get paid some money. So you actually have more ownership and more freedom and flexibility. There's no, like I said, in-network, out-of-network. For any incident with my health share, which is Christian Healthcare Ministry, Health Share Ministry, I pay up to $500. I have a baby, all the prenatal care, the entire at-home birth, the midwife, the doula. How much do I pay? $500 total. I get into a car accident, God forbid. I go to the emergency room. How much do I pay? $500 total. Health shares are so great, but I love the option also of what you did, which is the cash only practice, because now you can recommend what actually works. And in this case, if I was to go to you with a health share, it would be covered. I would get everything reimbursed because you are a doctor, which is really, really great. So I like your perspective. Everyone listening, if you have traditional health insurance, consider doing something different, like going to a doctor who's cash only because you're going to get better care, or moving to something like a health share because, again, you have more ownership. But it's something I'm very, very passionate about. I know this is a fitness and nutrition podcast, but here we are talking about insurance. Have you
Yeah.
have you ever heard of a health share?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been a member of them myself, several along the way. Yeah, that's the way to go.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
Fantastic concept.
As we close, share with us one final piece of advice for my listeners. What is the must-have supplement or the must-do tip that is going to set us up for success as we move into 2025?
Okay. My must do tip and my most important concept for you is to listen to your body, to slow down and listen to your body, get to know it, and at the same time, treat it well, treat it gently, and keep things fun. That's the
Aw.
most important. That's the most important, right? When I go to the gym in the morning, literally, Amanda, 90% of the time, I don't even know what I'm gonna do until I get there. Cause I'm like, I'm gonna see how my body feels. Like, how's my energy this morning? Okay. And I'm doing my exercise and I'm paying attention. Boy, my chest is like really fatiguing. Like, okay, that was a good workout. Good job, chest. Way to go. We'll just stop there. And when I was younger, I had this very demanding mentality, like Marine Corps boot camp. Like, you got to get so many reps done, so many sets. You got to add weight every week. Like, da 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 da. And first of all, then it feels like you're going to work. It doesn't feel fun. It kills the mojo in many senses. And then if you're not making your gains and keeping on your predetermined imaginative schedule anyway, and you're feeling like you're a failure, and then you're getting hurt and you're overtraining, all this. So it's the mindset, Amanda. When you learn to listen to your body, be patient, work with it, not against it, give it what it needs, and keep things fun, then you're going to love to exercise. It gets transformed from I have to I get to. And that's how I feel when I go to the gym. I tell my patients, here's a phrase for you, adult recess. I want it when you go to the gym, it should feel like adult recess. When you're a kid and it's recess, nobody tells you, make sure you run around, make sure you burn off some energy, right? It's just fun. You just run around, you do it. So when you go to the gym, don't load yourself up with expectations. Make it adult recess. It's your time. You don't have to, you get to. That's my
I
most important concept.
love it. That is fantastic. Where can we find and follow you online?
Oh, thank you. Well, michaelturnermd.com is my main website. I'm also on Instagram. I can't remember what my handle is exactly, but if you look up Michael Turner MD, you'll find me there. I'm on YouTube. And yeah, would love to connect with your audience. I have a national concierge network of clients that I work with. And so it's virtual. We can have a Zoom call. Literally, I had calls yesterday for people all over the country from their car, sometimes in the parking lot at work. So we make it flexible for people. And I just love to connect. I love what I do. I love to educate and inspire.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Turner. We are better off for it, and we will for sure find and follow you on Instagram and other platforms. Bye, everyone.